Hi, everybody. My name is Ray. I'm an alcoholic. And because of the good people in Alcoholics Anonymous, and more importantly, by the grace of God, I haven't found it necessary to have a drink today. Well, for the last 7 years. And, yeah, like he was saying, I was born in New York City, but I lived about 35 years in Washington, D.C., and that's where I started doing my drinking. And I was a real shy teenager. You know, I didn't fit in with the crowd and all that. And but the first time I drank some of that Boone's Farm wine, all of a sudden I became Mr. Popularity. You know, everybody liked me. Instead of being tongue-tied, boy, I'd talk all kinds of stuff to anybody, you know. And I was a real popular guy. I was the life of the party. And, you know, my social life improved a lot, you know. And went from Boone's Farm to beer and started smoking marijuana. And, you know, I went on like that for years and years. It was, I can't lie to you, when I first started, it was fun. It was fun, a lot of good times. But then it started not getting to be so much fun anymore. And I drank alcoholically for 30 years. So I'd like to jump. I don't want to tell any kind of war stories or crazy stuff I did like that, but I would say that I drank alcoholically for 30 years, and the last 10 years when it really got bad. Now, I didn't wind up in the street. I didn't wind up in jail. I always had a job. Always had a place to live. But I was drinking every single day. And I didn't think it was possible to stop. And I got to the point I was figuring, I'm going to drink myself to death. There was no way out of it. In AA, we always talk about everybody's got to hit their bottom. Well, the way I used to think, well, I'll quit drinking when I get this. I'll quit drinking when I get that. I think I'll quit drinking when I get a beautiful girlfriend and a good job. Well, I got a beautiful girlfriend and a good job, and I kept on drinking. And I lost those, you know. And then I started thinking, well, I'll quit when I get a promotion. I'll quit when I get that. I wasn't getting any of that because I was drinking every single day. And I'd be thinking, like, how come I'm not getting all this stuff? It was because I'm a drunk every day. I was coming to work. I wasn't losing my job because I was real good at it. But I wasn't going to get anywhere because my bosses saw me, you know, this guy's a drunk. So then I went from I'll quit drinking when I get this to I'll quit drinking when it gets this bad. I started thinking like, well, I'll quit drinking when I lose my license. Well, I lost my license. I remember standing in the courthouse in Rockville, Maryland, and the judge told me he was going to take my license away from me for 10 years. I said, thank you, Judge. And I walked out of that courthouse. There was a liquor store 2 blocks away. I walked down to the liquor store and got myself a quart of vodka. Got myself a bus schedule. Figured out, okay, the liquor store's open this time. The bus is running now. So I kept on lowering my bottom. I'll quit drinking when it gets this bad. It got that bad, I'd look around and say, well, this really ain't that bad. I can handle this. I'll quit drinking when it gets that bad. It got that bad. I said, well, this really ain't that bad, because I really didn't think I had any hope of drinking, of stopping to drink. I just figured I'm going to drink myself to death. I was out of hope. That's the worst thing to do, is to be out of hope. And I lost my house. That didn't do me any good. I was renting a house. I got kicked out of that, and I was renting another house. And this is, I like to say I had 2 bottoms. My first bottom was a year before I quit for good. I remember sitting in my house, and I had gotten to the point where I was drinking a quart of vodka every day. I wasn't one of them people that woke up and said, I ain't going to drink today. I woke up and said, I know I'm going to drink today. I got off of work at 1:30. I could get to the liquor store by 1:45. I know by 10 of 2, I was drinking. And all I drank was liquor back then, because the last 5 years of my drinking, I didn't have a single beer, because beer didn't work no more. It would take me 30 beers to get drunk. The way I had to be, once I started drinking, I had to get drunk quick. And they say liquor's quicker, and it's true. So that night, I remember I was sitting in my house, I had a half gallon of vodka sitting in front of me. Now, I'd gotten to the point where I could have a drink in my hand. I'm thinking about the next drink. It'd be Friday night. I'm thinking, do I have enough liquor for Sunday? And it wasn't fun anymore. And I kept on thinking for years and years that sooner or later, the fun times are going to come back. And I was sitting in my house that night, and I'm looking at this bottle of vodka, and I'm going, for the first time in my life, I said, this ain't no fun no more. It ain't going to be no fun no more. And it's killing me. Knowing that, I still picked up that bottle and drank out of it. That's my alcoholism. And I did that for another year. Drinking a quart of vodka, thinking, well, what am I going to do? I'm going to drink myself to death, and I figured 10 years. So I got it into my head that if I could cut down to a pint a day, I could live 15 years. No. And why would I want to live 15 years anyway? All I did was drink every day. What kind of life was it anyhow? So I decided one morning, I woke up one Monday morning, I said, I'm going to put myself into detox. Put myself in a hospital, they'll detox me and put me in rehab. And they'll teach me how to drink a pint a day. So that's how crazy my thinking was. So I remember calling up my boss. And I said, look here, I said, I'm putting myself into detox. I'm going to be out for the whole week. And he said, man, that's the best news I've heard in years. I've been waiting for this phone call from you. Because I showed up every day and did my job. So I went into the hospital, going to the ER. They take my blood pressure. It's like 190 over 150. So I'm lucky I didn't stroke out. So they put all kinds of needles in my arms, and they're doing all kinds of stuff to me, and they're interviewing me, and they said, well, we're going to put you up on the 5th floor for a week. Now there's the first step in Alcoholics Anonymous is we admitted we were powerless over alcohol and that our lives have become unmanageable. Now I knew for 20 years I was powerless over alcohol, but I didn't think my life was unmanageable because I still had a job and I still had a place to live. So anyway, they rolled me out on the 5th floor, said you're going to be here for 5 days. And I thought it was going to be a nice little drug rehab treatment center. You know, we're going to sit around with alcoholics and drug addicts and talk about all kinds of good stuff. Well, I looked there, and there was a guy standing over in the corner singing opera. There was another guy ballroom dancing by himself. There's women screaming, people crying, people laughing. And I'm thinking, well, I'm on the wrong floor. This is the psych ward. So I walked up to the nurse. I said, nurse, there's been a mistake. And she goes, what kind of mistake is that? I said, well, I'm on the wrong floor. And she said, no, you're on the right floor. She asked me my name. I said, you in the right place? I said, no, lady. I said, look here, I'm an alcoholic. And she goes, yeah, I see you're an alcoholic. And she goes, yeah. I said, exactly. That's my point. I said, these people are crazy. I ain't crazy. And she looked down on my chart again. She says, it says here that you've drank a quart of vodka every day for the last 5 years. You don't think that's crazy?
Okay.
And I didn't really have an answer to that, so she handed me an AA big book. She goes, you go on and sit over that couch over there, and the psychiatrist will see you in a couple minutes. I said, psychiatrist? She goes, yeah, psychiatrist. And when I'm walking over to the couch, she goes, one more thing. She says, don't you bother any of these people here. I said, damn, I'm being told not to bother the crazy people. So that's when I figured out maybe my life had become unmanageable. So they kept me there for 5 days. And when they let me out, they said, we're going to put you in an outpatient treatment center. Because I had a job. My boss told me, he said, look, you're welcome back. You can have your job back and all that. So I was in outpatient treatment. And I got out of the psych ward at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. At 3 o'clock, I was in the treatment center from 3 to 6. And they told me I had to start going to AA meetings. So at 7 o'clock, they dropped me off at the AA clubhouse. I went into that clubhouse. I sat down at 7 o'clock, the first meeting. By 8 o'clock, I walked out there and I said, these people are crazy. And than the people that were in the psych ward. I didn't want to hear what these people in AA were talking about. But I kept on going back because I was out of answers. I didn't have nothing else. You know, I was drinking myself crazy and to death. So I kept on going to these meetings, and I'm sitting in these meetings, and I'm looking at these people, and I'm still judging them. I'm saying, well, that guy's stupid. That guy's a geek. That woman's ugly. She's stupid looking at. That guy's funny looking. That man over there is talking all kinds of foolishness. But then I thought about something. I said, well, even though I don't like these people, they know how to do something I don't know how to do. They know how to stop drinking. So I kept on coming back to these AA meetings. I got a sponsor. I was real lucky because my sponsor was a guy who I worked with. And he was the guy for my last 3 years of my drinking. He used to come up to me every once in a while and say, hey, look, man, whenever you're ready, I'll help you out. I said, man, get away from me, man. I don't want nothing to do with you. But finally, you know, when I was ready, I was lucky. He gave me the help I needed. And he was good because he knew me at my worst. So he knew how bad off I was. So he's helped me out a lot. And 7 years later, he's still my sponsor. But I kept on going to these meetings. I wasn't understanding anything what these people were talking about doing these 12 steps. And I didn't want to do them. I was saying, man, I don't want to do all that stuff. Because they say in AA, because quitting drinking is easy. All you got to do is quit drinking and change everything in your life. That's pretty tall order. But anyway, I'm going to these meetings. I'm asking God for help every morning. People in AA would tell me, "Want to do 3 things. Don't drink today. Go to a meeting, ask God for help." Every morning I'm asking God for help. All I did, it wasn't no big prayer like Mahatma Gandhi would say up on a mountaintop. All I said was, God, keep me away from that first drink today. And at night when I went to bed, I said, thank you, God, I went through today without a drink. That was a miracle, that I could go a day without a drink. And the next day I didn't have a drink. Next day I didn't have a drink. But still stuff wasn't working for me. I'm thinking, man, I'm not drinking, but I'm still miserable. Because I'm always thinking about a drink in the back of my head. And I thought that's the way it was going to be. I was going to go the rest of my life not being able to drink and thinking about having a drink. So, and I was thinking, man, I might as well drink. This is crazy. So I remember the day I had 6 months sober. I'm talking to my sponsor and these 2 other guys who I work with, who were also in AA. And I said, guys, I haven't had a drink in 6 months, and my life still sucks. And I went on for 10 minutes about how miserable I was, how unhappy I was, the job still sucked, this still sucks, my neighbor's idiot, and all this and that. So I cried for about 10 minutes, and whined about 10 minutes. And after the end of the 10 minutes, one of the guys looks at me and goes, you know what? The only thing we cared about, what you just said, was the first thing you said. I haven't had a drink in 6 months. And then the other guy, my sponsor, goes, Ray, you drank for 30 years. If you think everything's going to be okay in 6 months, you got another thing coming to you. So I kept coming back and kept coming back and kept coming back. And it's funny, I was talking before about how I was always thinking about a drink. And I was talking about, I'm not going to be able to drink and I have to think about a drink. So I remember I was probably about 10 months sober. And I was living up north then. It was in February. And there was some snow on the ground, and I'm walking my dog through the park. And it was one of those days up north where it goes from like 20 degrees to like 60 degrees in one day. And all the snow's melting. And it's warm out. I'm walking around. I'm going, man, this used to be a great day to drink. Then it hit me. I can't remember the last time I thought about a drink. And it just happened. It wasn't like a light switch went on and off. It was a gradual process. It's just like, I can't tell you the day I became an alcoholic, I went from a heavy drinker to an alcoholic. can't tell you how that obsession was lifted from me. And the only way I can think of is because going to these AA meetings and asking God for help every morning. And even during the day, I'd ask God for help. And I remember I was sober for about 2 weeks, and I wanted to drink real bad. And I was on Antabuse. The people in the treatment center put me on Antabuse. I don't know if you know what Antabuse is. It's a pill you take. If you drink on it, you're going to get real sick. And I wanted to drink, and I was on Antabuse. And the liquor store was 2 blocks away from my house. And I'm going, oh my God, I really am crazy. And that night I fell down on my knees and asked God for help. It was the first time in my life I asked God for help when I didn't have it in the back. Years before, I'd say, God, please help me stop drinking. But that night, I was like, God, please help me stop drinking. I didn't have the little voice in the back of my head saying, except for weekends, or except for my birthday, or except when I go to the ball game. I wanted to stop. And like I said, it's been 7 years since I've had a drink, and my life has gotten a whole lot better. Now, I've had ups and downs since I've quit drinking. It's funny. I told you about my boss gave me my job right back after I got out of rehab. I never lost my job or a job when I was drinking. But since I've been sober, I've lost 2 jobs. Joke's on me. I thought everything was going to be, puppy dogs and rainbows and ice cream cones, but it wasn't like that. But what being sober has helped me do is when stuff like that happens, I'm able to handle it. I remember when my boss laid me off, my second time I got laid off. I'm sitting across the table from him. He said, I got to let you go. I said, well, thanks for the opportunity, and, I was going to get unemployment, but thanks for the opportunity, and, good luck to you. Back when I was drinking, I would have run right across that desk at that man. But now, since I'm sober, I've done those 12 steps, I know how to handle things a lot better. When a problem comes at, I can step back at the problem and look at it rationally instead of just reacting to it like I used to. And I take an AA meeting into a treatment center every Friday night. And it's one of those places where people pay like $30,000 a month. They go into 28 days or 3 months or however long to stay. And I hear a lot of these people in there say, oh, when I get out, I'm going to be able to handle it. Some guys will say, like, I can handle 1 drink. I can't handle 1 drink. I remember when I got my 5 years sober. I was walking my dog that morning. And I'm thinking, oh man, I got 5 years sober. I'm Mr. AA, I'm Mr. Sobriety, this and all that. And my phone rings, and it's my cell phone rings, it's my sponsor. And I thought he was going to say, oh, Ray, congratulations, I'm so proud of you, you're so wonderful, you got 5 years, I remember when you were at your lowest. And I answered the phone, he said one thing to me. He said, Ray, you're 1 sip away from eating out of a garbage can. And hung up on me. And it's true. And I'm walking down the street with the dog, and I'm all mad at him. Thinking, man, that guy, he's telling me this, he's supposed to tell me how wonderful I am. I walk down to the park, and the first thing I see when I get down to the park is there's a guy laying down by a garbage can, passed out with a wine bottle next to his head. And I'm thinking, he's right, I'm 1 sip away from that. Because there's one thing I got to remember, and anybody out there who's looking on this, the camera there, if you think you got this beat, just remember, your next drink or your next drug is going to do the same thing to you than your last one did. No matter you've been clean for a week or clean for 20 years. I have a friend of mine who was sober for 20 years. He talked himself into 1 drink. He drank for another 2 years. It wasn't until he hit a telephone pole and he decided to get sober again. And that's one thing I got to remember. Now, I'm not saying, once in a blue moon, I do think about a drink. You know, I'll be watching TV and somebody will be drinking at a bar or something. I'll think, man, shot of whiskey. I remember how good that used to taste. Just like that, it goes away, though. Because all I have to do is remember my last drink. And remember that my next drink is going to do the same thing to me my last drink did. And that's about all I got to say. Thanks, everybody.